Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As you're watching me on YouTube, those of you watching me on YouTube, look down there. That's what you can call me. Call me Sully. This episode is being dropped on the 16th day of September, 2021. We're going to be looking at the wild card races and tipping our hat to a team you wouldn't expect to be tipping your hat to at this point. That's the Colorado Rockies, who decided to show up, not as contenders, but as spoilers. And I'm bringing back Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies, as we both have some interesting ideas of why the Rockies are playing a little more relaxed. And if you break down the season, they're actually a better team than you think they are. Meanwhile, you're seeing the A's performed an absolute miracle tonight, and we're going to check on those late games on the West Coast that ended while you were probably sound asleep. This show is available on the free and easy-to-use Odyssey app. We're also available wherever you get your podcast, and if you're using your smart device, please be sure to tell it to play podcast Locked On MLB. You want to check us out on Twitter? Well, that's where we are right there. Locked On MLB Pods. If you want to follow me, I'm your pal Sully. I'm on Twitter at Sully Baseball. Right there. You can read it right there. It's Sully Baseball on Twitter. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Why is it different on Instagram? I'll tell you why. Someone else already took Sully Baseball. Go figure. Hey, I want to bring this up. First of all, foremost, the A's held on to a lead. I don't want us to gloss over that, because I'm convinced there is no lead that bullpen can hold. You take a look at the A's for the last about month or so, right around the time they crept up to within a game and a half of the Houston Astros. And I can right now, without even opening up baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in history of the planet Earth, I can think of 4, maybe even 5 games where they had a 4-run lead or more relatively deep into the game, and they lost all those games, including a game the other day where they were winning 6-0 against the Kansas City Royals team that already waved the white flag, and they blew it. Well, today they were winning at one point 12-5, and the Royals scored a run here, a run there, and I looked up, and the Royals had the bases loaded. The score was 12-9, I believe, at the time. And I did the math in my head and said, if they hit a grand slam, that's a walk-off grand slam, and they would have lost yet another game where they scored an outrageous number of runs and the bullpen couldn't hold it. And again, I can think of 4 games right off the top of my head. I'm sure A's fans, Jason Burke of Locked On A's, is probably having a conniption fit. Listen to his podcast. He's actually in Disneyland because he had to go to someplace that was more relaxing for an A's fan, which ironically is Anaheim. But let's just take, of those 4 games, let's flip 2 of them. Okay, every team's going to have disastrous losses, all right? Every team's going to have a game or two where they're like, how did we lose that game? I call those the teeth grinders. Every team has a teeth grinder once in a while. Let's just say flip 2 of those games. The game where Marcus Semien hit the grand slam walk-off, and the game against the Rangers where they were up 6-0 early. Let's just flip those 2. They can lose that other game to Toronto, and they can lose that game this week to the Kansas City Royals. Okay, just those 2 games. If we flip those 2 games into the win column, the A's would be a game and a half out. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's late on Wednesday evening, and I've been recording this, they're 3.5 out. At this point in the season, when you only have like 15, 16 games left, the difference between a game and a half and 3.5 is a lot. And it might be the difference between the A's making it to the wild card game and the A's playing golf. It's a shame because this is an exciting A's team. This is a fun A's team. This A's team I picked to win the West. One of the reasons why I picked them to win the West is because I didn't trust the Houston Astros starting pitching. And the Astros have not exactly been playing like the 1927 Yankees. I mean, they won tonight. They clobbered the Texas Rangers as well. They should, but they've been, they've done okay, but they've not been great. And the fact of the matter is they're a vulnerable team. And if the A's played better down the stretch, they would be in the run for the division as well as the wild card. So anyway, that didn't happen. I mean, the A's won today. And so, I mean, technically they're still in it, but it's going to get tough because you get that three-way scrum at the top. The Toronto Blue Jays dust themselves off from the shutout that was thrown at them by Tampa, and give the Blue Jays a ton of credit. The Tampa Bay Rays came into town, the best team in the American League, and the Blue Jays took 2 out of 3. They won this afternoon 6-3. Robbie Ray, another terrific game from him. And we're seeing that scrum at the top of the American League wild card is continuing. The Red Sox won a game in extra innings against the Seattle Mariners, and I no longer have to worry about that series anymore. And that was Sox took 2 out of 3 from Seattle. And the Yankees blew a lead late, but then came from behind against the Baltimore Orioles. And that's twice this week that a team that had no business losing to the Yankees had a lead late, and then the Yankees came back. Minnesota, where they're up 5-0 against the Yankees, they wound up coming back from them. And today, where the Chad Green coughed up a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, and the Yankees rallied back with 2 in the 9th. And give the Yankees credit. Yeah, they beat Minnesota, who stink this year. They beat the Orioles, who are historically bad. But you're supposed to beat those teams, especially when the Jays are playing a really good team and the Red Sox are playing a good team. You have to hold serve and win those games against the lousy teams. And the Yankees have had trouble beating some of those teams, including Baltimore. Remember, they lost 2 out of 3 at home to the Orioles just a week or so ago. So, you got to give the Yankees credit. They found the ways to win those games where they look dead from the neck up. And so we have right now a virtual 3-way tie in the American League wild card. And if the Yankees win tomorrow, both Boston and Toronto are off tomorrow. If the Yankees win tomorrow against Baltimore, which they should, then they will be entering this weekend as the top American League wildcard team. Give them credit for all the stuff that has gone on, all the injuries, all the drama, everything like that, to get to this point of the season where they would be hosting the wildcard game. Well, it shows a little something from them. And by the way, there's some other teams we got to make a little note to. Cardinals are now the team, the second wildcard team, the team that will have the honor of facing Max Scherzer probably in the wild card game. The Cardinals have it all by themselves, and they won an extra inning game against the Mets the other day. They clobbered the Mets today, 11-4. John Lester. Remember John Lester? Everyone, including your pal Sully, made fun of the Cardinals for acquiring John Lester, as if to say, what the heck are they doing? Well, he got the win tonight. Maybe the Cardinals weren't so dumb making a run for it. But let's also point out a couple other teams. Oh, and the Phillies, who have just picked the absolute wrong time to go on a spiral, managed to have a walk-off win against the Chicago Cubs, but it might be too little too late. Now, let's point out 2 teams that I want to salute for showing up. The Pirates showed up. They beat Wade Miley, who was a dark horse in the Cy Young race, and they won today on Roberto Clemente Day when Defoe scored from second on a ball that didn't get out of the infield. Super hustle play to walk off the game against the Cincinnati Reds, who are on a massive tailspin right now. The Reds probably circled the Pirates on the calendar. Oh, that's going to be a couple of wins there. And the Pirates said, no, we're showing up. And I love that. I love that when teams show up, bad teams show up and say, hey, you're not necessarily going to win this, okay? And another team that showed up won and beat the Braves a couple of games, including today in extra innings, and that's Colorado. And Colorado, went into Atlanta. They've won a couple of games in Atlanta, and tonight, Antonio Senzatella has pitched really, really well, and Tapia got a big hit, an RBI single, and next thing you know, the Colorado Rockies won themselves a game and are not letting the Atlanta Braves just walk over them. And in the second segment of tonight's show, or this morning's show, whenever you listen to it, Paul Holden of Locked on Rockies is going to be here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Rockies and the fact that they're a different team, especially since all the trade rumors are over. And maybe they're a team that's worth watching, especially at home. And maybe you can watch it on your TV. Maybe you can watch it on your device. And look, does this sound familiar? You got one device that let you watch the game, another device that lets you watch your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone. You got your neighbor's best friend's login for all the good stuff. I want to tell you, there's a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle. It's a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream. And it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible devices required. Content varies by package. All right, welcome back. I'm very honored for those of you watching YouTube. Look who's right there. Look who's right there. Who is that? Who's that face there? Who's that face? That's the face of Paul Holden of Locked on Rockies.
Oh,
man, fan favorite. He is a fan favorite, Paul Holden of Locked on Rockies. How you doing?
I'd love to hear that. That's big news. I'm glad to be a fan favorite. I got to keep it up.
Yeah, I got to tell you one thing about the Rockies. Now, I confess I don't follow them as closely as you, but that'd be weird if I did. That'd be really. Gotta be honest with you. Like, I follow every team, but mainly the Rockies. But the Rockies have been doing a couple of things this year. One is they seem to be relishing their spoiler role, that they want to throw a monkey wrench in other people's playoff hopes, and they've been a very good team at home. They've been an outstanding team at home. If they were only mediocre on the road, they would be a wild card contender right now.
Yeah, it's something that it's pretty wild. I did the math not too long ago, and this was a couple weeks ago. I talked about if the Rockies had just flipped the script on 10 games on the road and gotten a 10-game win streak, and this was, I think, right after they had swept the Padres, they would have actually had overtaken the Padres for the second wild card spot. You can't change the past, but 10 wins in a baseball season is not a ton to ask for when you really think about it, and especially when you looked at the road schedule that the Rockies had this month. If the Rockies had an opportunity to make a run, the schedule favored them this month, but not this year.
The Rockies have, against Los Angeles and the San Francisco Giants have had their way with the Rockies. There's no way. There's no two ways about that. But you look at some other contenders, especially the San Diego Padres. It's quite possible that the Rockies would have torpedoed the chances for the Padres. Let me put it this way. If the Padres miss the postseason by a game or so, and pulling back the curtain, we're recording this on Saturday the 11th, but we're dropping this in the middle of the week. But the Padres and Reds have essentially been playing leapfrog for the last couple of months, and if the Padres miss the postseason by a game or so, they can easily look back at their time against Colorado and say, that's what did it.
You have to. You absolutely have to, especially with the way the Padres and the Rockies have matched up. I mean, you wouldn't think about it, but the Padres have struggled mightily against the Rockies. In fact, when you go through, the Rockies have won. They've finished playing games for this year, but the Rockies have, out of their final, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games here. 5 games here. The Rockies won 4 of 5 against the Padres, and even going back then, it's 6 of 7, even further that, with a big sweep of the Padres as well. I think if the Padres miss the postseason, you have to look at the fact that they could not handle business against the Rockies, and especially the big star for the Padres, especially, is the Rockies. As bad as they've been on the road, the Padres has been the team that they've had the most success playing on the road against, with few road series on the year for the Rockies. 2 of those series wins comes in San Diego in the second half of the year. Those are monster games for teams that are contending, especially when you have to deal with the Giants and the Dodgers. You have to be better than the Rockies, as like the Giants and the Dodgers have been.
Now, let me ask you, I want to just ask you this. In fact, I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to quickly run over to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And I want to just take a quick peek at the fact that by the end of July, I had you on around the trade deadline, because I could not remember you were on, and we could not understand why Trevor Story was still under the employ of the Colorado Rockies. Exactly. It made no sense to me. But an interesting, like this, as I said, this record may have changed because we're recording this on Saturday. But since the 29th day of July, just before the trade deadline, the Rockies have been 3 games above 500. And that's in a month. That's a month and a half of baseball where they've played winning baseball. And I want to just throw this at you here. Do you think that has to do, at least any part of it has to do with the fact that the trade deadline had come and gone? They no longer were picking up the newspaper or going on Twitter and saying, have I been traded to the Cardinals? I've been traded to the Yankees. I've been traded to the Phillies. And like, oh, I'm here. Okay. I know I'm going to be here the rest of the year. I don't have to worry about because, I mean, I remember I had on Erin Dolan, who is the wife of Sean Doolittle, who is now pitching for the Mariners. I had her on my old podcast the day after Sean was traded from Oakland to Washington. Mm-hmm. And there are things that you and I don't think about.
Right.
When there's a trade made. She said the first thing she thought of was, I just bought avocados. But like, you have to immediately find a new place to live. You have to immediately uproot yourself. If you have kids, are they in school? Are you going to stay with them in school? Are you going to go out with them? Are you going to be staying in hotels? It happens right away. Right. But these aren't baseball cards. This isn't your fantasy team. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, God, do I have to move? Do I have a dog? You know, do I have exactly? Do we just did we just buy a house in Denver? Do we have to move? What the hell is going on? And so I wonder if those anxieties removed may have helped them play winning baseball.
I think you nail it in the case of Trevor Story. I think we're seeing a closer Trevor Story that the Rockies fans have known and loved, but that fans of baseball fans can expect. Just in today's game, he makes a play where he dives over his side, he throws out a runner on first from his butt, and he just launched one 441 feet. I think while the trade deadline and this year has been really tough for Trevor Story, I think what he told himself, because if you flash back, he takes himself out of the lineup the day after the trade deadline, or I think the game of the trade deadline, one of the two. He takes himself out of the lineup and just to process. And I think he just told himself in that moment, you know what? I need to get myself a little more right, make sure my elbow's okay, make sure I'm working, my swing's okay. Let's beef up the numbers a little bit to just make it so I already have a good case going into free agency. Let's go out and make it a better case, because there were plenty of people sure that were like, oh, Trevor Story on the down year, but Trevor Story I can't remember if he got on, but had a hitting streak after the trade deadline of double-digit games, had at least 13 game on base streak as of last night. I can't remember off the top of my head if he reached base yesterday. And again, great defense. Now his arm is something I think that is going to be the concern. He's made some bad throws this year that you really don't expect, but that does go back to, I think, that elbow issue. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least something small with Trevor Story in terms of, I don't know if it's surgery, but at least he's going to probably get looked at, I'm sure, for that elbow. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Once the trade deadline passed and Trevor Story knew that he was finishing this chapter in Colorado, I think he just said, hey, I'm going to go out and try to make myself, the best case going into free agency. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I do wonder if the solid performance from the Rockies and this good supporting cast that they, if only they had 2 years ago, it makes him wonder at least a little bit to entertain an offer from the Rockies this free agency. I don't think he stays, but I think that the door isn't maybe completely shut anymore.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there, especially if these last few months are kind of fun.
Yeah.
If there's because he was part of that team in 2018 that came within one win of winning the National League West. And I think, I don't think they necessarily would have gone to the World Series, but who knows? If they were a division winner instead of having to play all those play-in games,
right?
They may have been in a better position to go further than getting swept in the division series by Milwaukee. Either way, I mean, you and I have talked about that team a couple of times. You've been on the show because you're a fan favorite. But the fact of the matter is that was a really fun team in 2018 and filled with stars. And didn't they bring back Matt Holliday at the end as kind of like he was at the end of his? I remember that.
Matt Holliday. He actually he didn't do a ton, but he had a couple of big moments still.
Yeah, that's why I remember that. That's because he came off the bench. He became kind of a valuable. It became more than a kind of like when the Red Sox brought Ellis Burks back in 2004 and another former Blake Street Bomber,
right?
And who was a Red Sox during the late 80s and early 90s and. He was gassed when he came back. That was more of a ceremonial. Hey, Ellis Burks is on the team and he gets a ring. Right. But Holliday was actually a really good, productive bat off the bench.
Yeah,
and it was kind of fun to see him, back in the Rockies
postseason mix. It's like Rockies back in the playoffs. We need Matt Holliday.
Yeah, that was. By the way, I have to just say, I'm not trying to bring up bad memories and everything like that. Matt Holliday, great player, had a wonderful, wonderful career. His two biggest postseason highlights were classic bonehead moments that virtually no one remembers. In a critical moment, people forget in the 2007 World Series, Red Sox swept the Rockies, but a couple of those games were close. And the Red Sox were only up by 1 run in game 2, and they had Holliday on first, and with 2 outs in the 8th inning, and Papelbon picked them off. And picked him off like by a lot. It wasn't one of those let's check the tape situations. It was like, oh boy. And that just completely torpedoed any attempt to come back. And later when he was a member of St. Louis and they were playing Los Angeles in the division series in, I believe it was 2009. I'm doing some of this from memory. The Cardinals were winning with, I think, 2 outs in the 9th inning or maybe 1 out. Again, from memory. And there was a fly ball, a flare to left field, and he just bad news bears it. It just stonk, dropped it, and the Dodgers rallied to win the game. It was one of those that opened up the floodgate and hit, and then
2 outs and
Cardinals wound up getting swept. And that was a Cardinals team that had a healthy Wainwright and a healthy Carpenter. They had 2 aces.
Right.
That made you think, ooh, this could be a tough team. And like, well, too bad you got swept. And, you feel badly for that because, look, I don't know Matt Holliday. I never met the man. But from all accounts, he seems like a good man. He seems like a decent, player. And I was like, this is too bad that this player got, these are his 2 major highlights are, getting picked off and being, lupus. Dropping the ball.
Hey, at least he gets to say he was there, and I mean he was part of a World Series win.
Yeah, he did win. He was part of the World Series team that won because Nelson Cruz missed time to leave. I'm so cruel. I'm mean. I am mean. But I guess the point I'm saying is that like maybe I think Trevor Story is going to go elsewhere because someone's going to pull up a Brinks truck, and the fact that the Yankees are getting horrible defense from their shortstop right now makes me think that they would be like, we got to do something about this. I'm sure they're regretting not trading for him right now.
I would have to.
Shortstop is a gigantic hole on their team right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams would like John Gray as part of in their rotation too. I mean, like I said, if that was the move the Rockies were going to make, I think that would have been a big splash, and we could see. But the Rockies have these kind of picked up some players that have really performed well. CJ Crone has been incredible for the Rockies.
He's great.
I mean,
seems like every 2 days he's like 2 or 3 hits and rather than 3 or 4 runs, and it's not all course. Crone has been a good player for them.
Yeah,
he's been a great pickup.
He's been. That's the thing. He has been phenomenal. Honestly, I mean, NL Player of the Month in August. I mean, he really hits the ball. Flashing back to 2018, throw a CJ Crone in there, and what does that do? You take Daniel Murphy out of the equation, and you put an Ian Desmond out of the equation, and you replace it with CJ Crone, and there's a what if for you.
And Senzatella's done well recently.
Yeah, the Herman Marquez bounced back last night with a good performance. Still worry about Kyle Freeland here. He's got some great stuff, but I think he came out with something with his hip. He did an injection. I think he's banged up right now at this point. I think he's just a little more hurt.
I would shut him down. If I were them, like, we got 3 weeks. What are you going to do? You're not going to. You just cause a lot of damage there. But
yeah, that's the thing. If it's a hip, and he was pitching well in the game that's going on right now while we're recording, 4 innings, good, 3 walks in a row, and then a drag bunt for a double for 2 runs after walking in a run. I mean, that's kind of classic Rocky stuff there too. But we don't need Kyle Freeland to get super hurt. He is a good pitcher. He just needs to get that consistency and that health consistency too. But yeah, the Rockies have been much more enjoyable in the second half. They've been a much better team than everybody thought this year. I mean, I don't think there's many, myself included, I don't think there's very many people that had the Rockies outside of the bottom 3 teams in baseball post Nolan trade and spring training. For them to be in this position is a positive, but in a ways, you do wonder. It's like with the draft picks and all that stuff. But I kind of go back to me as a fan and someone who has to watch the Rockies every day. I'm a little more. I'm happy I'm not covering the Orioles. Sorry out there, Orioles fans, but 36 wins for a bit there is a bit rough, and the road Rockies are sometimes hard enough to watch. But there is more of a pulse to this team than I gave credit to at the beginning of the year. And especially with some players that we didn't know about until this point of the year. And especially with this young guy, Connor Joe. I mean, he is a really exciting young guy. He has done, in terms of coming off the bench and then being that player to just make an impact, he has done that. And if he can develop, and I saw someone on Twitter be like, if he can just be a Max Muncy, we would take that. I think we're not looking for the moon, but we're just looking for someone that can consistently do what he does at home. And he's a great presence. The clubhouse loves the guy. I mean, and so there is, when you ask is it fun to be on the Rockies right now? I think it is fun to be on the Rockies right now. More fun than it was at the beginning of the year and when that road record started going, because the second half has been a much better time for the Rockies. Hasn't been perfect, but it's been much better.
2 things to clarify. The voice you've been hearing belongs to Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies, and you can follow Locked On Rockies on Twitter at LO Rockies. The other thing to clarify is it's Connor Joe, not Immortan Joe, who is the villain in Mad Max Fury Road, the best film of the 2010s.
I love that movie. Did you see they just pushed back the Furiosa prequel?
Whatever it is, I'm there. You have my money.
Totally.
Mad Max Fury Road, the best film of the 2010s. I was late to the game. I was a huge Road Warrior fan growing up. And I came out when I was like 10. Road Warrior blew my mind when I saw it. I said, there's no way they're going to top it. And so I was late to the game on watching Fury Road, and I saw it in a practically empty theater because it had been out for like 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And I think it had just been nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. I said, man, I got to stop resisting this movie. And I sat down, and I'm alone in a movie theater in Mountain View, California, and I yelp out, "Holy SHIT," 5 times, and I burst out in applause. I'm in an empty theater. It's like 3 other people
Right.
there. I'm not in a big like crowd, everyone cheering and everything like that. That's how great it is. And I've seen it beginning to end 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the most, if you learn nothing from this discussion about the Colorado Rockies, is that you should watch a 7-year-old movie.
Yes, there you go.
called
Exactly.
Mad Max Fury Road, because it's incredible. And you're incredible, Paul Holden. And thanks for being part of today's episode of Locked On MLB.
Thank you as always, Sully. You know I'm always down to talk about the Rockies.
And guess what? We're back. And we're better than ever as all eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With an updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use promo code NFL100. From football, baseball, basketball, boxing, right down to your favorite Las Vegas casino games, don't wait. Take advantage of the amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is your online sportsbook expert. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain store to stock all the auto parts that you need. Why endure the pointless and seemingly intimidating questions and wait for the person behind the counter to order parts on the computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers and devices and access to rockauto.com at home or on the road. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 30 years. And the prices of Rock Auto they're reliably low for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need are at rockauto.com. All right, while you were sleeping, a couple of games on the West Coast wrapped up. The Giants' winning streak came to an end as the San Diego Padres took the game 9-6. It was a 9-game winning streak by the Giants, who put the aft thrusters on to try to give themselves a better chance to win the division outright and avoid facing a one-game playoff with the wild card, and also hoping to win the division so the Dodgers have to burn Max Scherzer in a one-game playoff. Well, the Padres, who were on a horrible tailspin, got 4 hits from Frazier, 4 hits from Tatis Jr., and they won the game 9-6. And with that victory, they remain 1 game behind the St. Louis Cardinals for the second wildcard spot. The Phillies won, so they remain 3 games back, and the Reds are a game and a half back. But in that critical division race, the Dodgers and the Giants are both going to probably win over 100 games. Dodgers are in the middle of a 6-game winning streak. These two teams are just stampeding towards the end. Giants have 95 wins. The Dodgers have 94 wins. The Dodgers are 2 games behind the San Francisco Giants in the loss column, so they're a game and a half back, and with how many games left? I'm going to use my calculator here. You would think I would have looked this up before I hit record, but what are you going to do? Dodgers have 15 games left. 15 games left to close that gap with the San Francisco Giants and win yet another division title. Or it could be the Giants' turn to win the division and put the Dodgers in that uneasy place. And who knows? I mean, the Padres and the Reds have been in an absolute tailspin. Maybe the Cardinals are not the team you want to face. I don't know. Either way, if the Dodgers put Max Scherzer on the mound. I don't care if they put the 98 Yankees or the 1927 Yankees or the big red machine on. They're not going to beat Max Scherzer. So there we go. Another day of baseball is going on. We got a Thursday slate, which is usually a little lighter because there's going to be some teams traveling. The aforementioned Rockies are going to try to be spoilers again as they take on the Braves. The Reds want to dust themselves off and maybe win a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pirates have other ideas. The A's want to see how many runs they could fork over and how big a lead it takes to not give their fan base a heart attack, and that's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to take a 20-run lead and win tomorrow 21-19 against the Kansas City Royals. The Angels and the White Sox are facing off. The Padres and the Giants also have an afternoon game. It's going to be interesting to see if the Padres can make it 2 in a row. The Giants do have something to play for. The Yankees have something to play for. They want to be the lead team in the wildcard hunt. They have an afternoon game, Montgomery against Ellis in Baltimore. The Cubs and the Phillies are playing each other. The Phillies are hanging on for dear life, while the Rays are taking on the Tigers. And while that looks like a mismatch, what do we say about mismatches? Alexander is pitching against Head. That's not Doyle Alexander, by the way, pitching for the Detroit Tigers. That would be Tyler Alexander, who I don't think is related to Doyle Alexander. If he is, let me know at Sully Baseball on Twitter. And only one other game going on, the All-Texas game, Otto versus Valdez, Rangers and Astros. So, talking about the A's finally being able to hold on to a lead, some wild games out west, and the Colorado Rockies saying, we are not going to take this lying down. This has been Locked On MLB for the 16th day of September 2021. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Why am I hesitating right now? I'm hesitating right now because I'm supposed to bring up one last ad, and your pal Sully mistakenly closed the window. This is a little inside baseball. I'm probably not supposed to be saying this, but I'm going to say it right now because that's how honest I am. And you can call me Sully. Hey, betting on baseball doesn't have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get podcasts. Smooth.